welcome everybody back. I see some new faces tonight. First thing, as usual, we just want to make sure everybody's signed in, or you could scan the QR code so you can get on our mailing list for any updates of upcoming meetups. Tonight, our guest speaker is Syed. Syed is basically involved with a bunch of things. He's an entrepreneur. He's got 100+ units. He does new construction. He does fix and flips. And he owns a couple businesses. So I want to start him off with him giving us a little background.
Sure. How you guys doing? Syed. So I started as a flipper in 2011. Small, really shitty flips in Long Island. Also started my first business in 2011 in contract manufacturing that I still own to this day. And kind of did the flipping on the side. My father was a retail flipper, is what I call them. He'd flip one house every couple of years and make 20 grand and he'd be happy. He got stuck with a house in 2007 in the financial crisis, and it basically went to shit. And I took that property over in managing it in 2011, 2012. I converted illegally converted a single family into a triplex in Long Island, and finally got it cash flowing, and that's kind of how I started in this industry. I always saw my father in the real estate business on the side, but he hated rentals, absolutely hated rentals, and never wanted me in this business.
That's because he was in New York.
Yeah. And it is a hard business if you're not good at this business, if you don't look at this business as a professional career. I tell everyone my main business, what do you do? I do real estate. That's my answer, for everything. Anything else I do is I just happen to do it also. But real estate is my focus. It's what I focus probably most of my time on. And it's what I kind of love to do.
All right. So after you did the fix and flip and you turned that into a triplex, where do you go from there?
So from there, we kind of, both me and my partner were part-time. He was a trained architect. He was making $45,000 a year, trying to get his license and taking the test. And we started flipping more houses. The first house in 2011, we did horrible on it. I think the net profit was $26,000 between us.
Okay.
But we grew that. We kept kind of chugging along. In 2013, we had finally been starting doing 3-4 a year, and my partner was making $45,000 a year, and he would have to take time off from work to go actually do the construction side of it. It was our own crews, and his job was giving him shit, and he was just well, I make $50,000 a year. I made $50,000 on the last flip.
Yeah.
I'm out, right? So he quit. I didn't quit. I was making great money back then. But I saw my business, my contract manufacturing business, kind of dwindling. And thankfully I was wrong, but I wanted to find another career path after my contract manufacturing business. I was making great money, but I saw labor rates in most of my factories in China and other places were going up 25% a year. My margins here were actually going down, or my prices would stay stagnant. So I was I can't raise my prices here. My margins are just dwindling. I'm I'm going to be out of the business in 3 to 5 years. Okay. So, while my father was still young, I was my dad came out of retirement. He ran the business for the most part. And I was I'm going to go back to school and kind of find that passion in something. And real estate was the thing I had always done. I saw my father do. And I was you know what, why don't I go get my master's in this? And I also worked full-time and went to school part-time.
Okay.
So I went to NYU. I got my master's in real estate development and finance. And I worked full-time for a couple of national firms like Cushman & Wakefield, doing debt and equity brokerage and then investment sales. So the nice thing was I got paid to kind of learn the more institutional space. Okay. And I learned it and got paid for it, right? Okay. So sometimes people have experience in the construction side, they don't have experience in the finance side, and both are very important. But my partner is really good at the construction. He doesn't know that much about the finances. So we kind of, we were partners, we were college roommates, so it kind of just worked. But the issue was, me and my partner were still flipping, but while I was working and I was finally finishing up my master's, this is 2017, I always knew I wanted to own rentals. Like I was like, the good thing with flips is you make a lot of money. The bad thing with flips is they're paychecks a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to live off that like there's no cash flow, right? You're just shelling out money. You're living off a credit card, and then you'll get $100,000 check. And then you pay off your credit card, but then you got to buy the next project, and you should have already bought it if you want to keep it rolling. So it's really difficult to just flip, and that's why most flippers do something else. So I knew what we wanted rentals. We're like, why don't we get into like some buy and holds? Like they obviously have a big synergy within flipping and buy and holds. The problem was, as I was working, and commercial real estate as a career path is not a 9 to 5. It's a 7 to 7, and no one's waiting for you. Even though it's competitive now, even in 2014, 15, 16, no one was going to wait for me to come see a property on the weekend.
Yeah.
Right. So we looked everywhere. I took a day off every week almost and looked for properties for a full year, and I didn't buy anything. I couldn't find anything. I couldn't close a single deal.
And this is all in New York, obviously.
Within about an hour of New York. So
Okay,
I couldn't afford New York. So I was
Okay.
in Newark a lot. I was
right.
in Patterson. I was in Westchester. I was
Okay.
out east in Long Island.
Okay.
I looked anywhere. Then finally, and it's funny, like I tell everyone, like as long as you're active, good things happen. And I don't know what that means in terms of the exact deal, but something will happen. So like I went for my master's, I worked in the commercial real estate industry, and I found Allentown by a buddy of mine that I went to school with.
Okay.
And he sent me a 12-unit portfolio in 2017. 2018. And I had decided to quit my job, and I was like, I'm only going to look for property. And I was like, I'll take the financial hit. And I think I quit. My last deal closed out. I stopped working in maybe May, but I had one deal that closed out in July. But I was just looking for property. I closed on my first 12 units September 26th of 2018. That was 12 units, a 5, 4, and a 3. And then ever since then, we just thought we would slowly grow. Like we've been buying something on average, I'm always in contract for something. Since December of 2018. I got into contract for another 6 unit. And then after that, I've been buying something since. And everything kind of just worked out, and things really do snowball. And I'm part of some clubs that are like high net worth individuals, and it's just funny. Making that first million is ridiculously hard. Going from that 1 to 5, 10 is difficult, but it's easier than getting to the 1. And like, I never thought I would be like, I have a plan in my head to make 20, 30, 40, 50 million. And the work is hard, but it doesn't seem like it's that bad. It's easier than what it took me to get here.
Okay. Now, going back to that 12 unit, you still hold that property?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what were you, when you came over from New York and you realized you want to get out of fixing and flipping and buying and holding?
Yeah.
Were you looking for add value properties?
Yeah, all value add, just because the returns I would need, I can't do it off regular properties like as is.
Now, were you? Did you have a crew out here?
No. So the first month was nerve wracking. I mean, everyone has this. We closed. That was the 26th. We were here on the 1st. Like first, we were worried like, how the hell are we going to collect rent? Like, is everyone going to pay? Like, what's going to happen? Like, if we had 12 people not paying, we'd be screwed, right? So we came here and we actually did get a little lucky. Out of those 12 units, there was a garage behind one of the buildings, and it was rented to this maintenance guy.
Okay.
And his name is Will. He's still my maintenance guy, and he's been with me since 2018. And his role has kind of changed throughout the years. Okay. We learned that the hard way, but more than his work, he was trustworthy. So like, he's our guy in Allentown. If something goes wrong at 2 a.m., I can call him. Okay. And we got really lucky that way. But unfortunately, a lot of this business is just you learn through mistakes. So like, you're gonna hire and fire tons of guys. I'm not gonna tell you. I mean, we've been doing construction since 2011. it's not like it's all sunshine and rainbows. Like
Yeah.
we fired maybe like 10 different reno guys.
Okay.
And even my maintenance guy doesn't do renos anymore. He's not allowed to do renos. He does light maintenance and rents out units and does a couple other small things. That's it. And he loves it because it's a lot easier on his body. He's older. He's salaried now.
Okay.
And then now we found a full-time construction crew that only works for us. And we've only had that for two years, 2.5 years.
All right. Can you talk a little bit how you got funding for that deal, that 12 unit?
Oh yeah, it was hell on earth, like absolute hell on earth. So initially, so I'm used to New York, right? So like New York market works a little differently. Like we don't do due diligence in New York. Well, we don't have a due diligence period traditionally. You go into contract with a hard deposit, right? Like that's just how the market is. And most of North Jersey and competitive markets are like that. Over here, we're not usually like that. Some now we are a little bit, but not like back then. So in 2018, I came in and I was like, you know, the portfolio was 530,000. I was like, all right, I'm going to give you 50 grand down, or 50 grand as an EMD, hard deposit at contract signing. So we negotiated a little bit on the price. It didn't really work out, but whatever. We got the property. But then I was just like, in New York, if you want a bank, and as long as you don't have a bankruptcy on your record and no like criminal record, it doesn't matter what you make. It doesn't matter how much income you show, what your bills are. I can go get you financed for 75% leverage any day of the week. And that's just because in New York, they're asset-based lending essentially, because they don't give a crap. Like you buy $100 million building, if you have $25, $30 million to close, Chase Bank will lend it to you, right? Like it doesn't matter because they love those assets. Those are primary market assets. They would love to take over a building there. In secondary markets and tertiary markets, what I didn't know, because I came from the institutional space, like you matter more too. So like I had income on paper and so did my partner, but nothing crazy at the time. So I got denied by like 4 different banks. I don't globally cash flow is what they would say. And I was like, the building cash flows, like I don't need to be able to cash flow this out of my pocket. And so then it was like 30 days in and I was shitting bricks now. I have 50 grand on the line, right? So at that time I tell the owner, I was like, listen, I need more time. Like I need at least another 30 days or 45 days. He agreed to do it with another 50 grand hard. So I gave it to him. I was like, okay, I'm not losing 50, so I'll give you the other 50 and I'll figure it out. So then me and my partner were like, you know what? Like we pulled up a list of every bank in Pennsylvania, and I told him, you start at Z, I'll start at A,
and just call them.
And call every bank and tell them, like, give them a, you know, we made a small little thing of like what the financials look like and everything. And can you do it or not? And also the big thing for us was we were non-residents of the Valley. Like Embassy Bank, other banks will do a lot of you guys, you know, they won't touch me. Even today, Embassy won't lend to me.
They still won't?
Yeah, still won't.
Oh, because you're not a resident.
I'm not a resident. So I just started at A and I found my banker at First Keystone. And he's still my lender to this day. Now I use other people as well, but I still borrow with him because the relationship matters. And, you know, there are other benefits of having relationship banking is more important than what most people think. I just 100%. Closed the deal with Mike, and he was about 0.5% higher than other banks. But you know what? At the end of the year, they don't bother me about every line item on my tax return. My tax return is very complicated, and you know, it just it's a lot easier to do business with than anyone else. Like same thing in COVID. In that summer of COVID, I wanted to refi some buildings. I got screwed over by a couple of different bankers in the area that no longer are in the business, and one or two like good brokers. And then I went back to Mike because all the banks during COVID were like, they would send you a questionnaire of like, if your property goes fully vacant, what would you do? Like, the hell do you mean I would do? I would cry. Like, you know, and they were trying to like see if we had a plan for them. Like, there's no plan that you could put in place recently.
This is supposed to happen.
And then I called up Mike, was like, dude, like I need to refi these like 2-3 properties. And he was like, cool. And he did a drive-by appraisal because you couldn't find appraisers back then. And he got the deal done for me. And I do get some special treatment now just because I borrow with them a lot,
Yeah.
but that took time,
Okay.
for me to
build
build
a relationship.
Yeah, so and that's important.
All right. So that being said, after that 12 unit was all stabilized, refinanced out, how'd you end up scaling from
So
there?
we ended up buying the 12, then a 6. And this whole time, since actually 2023 July, we never took a penny from the business. And we still don't take any money from the rental income.
Okay.
We don't touch it. So every penny went right back into the business, either renovating, purchasing, whatever it was, it stayed in the company. The only thing that we covered, actually, no, sorry, we paid for our cars. I mean, we drive a lot because we come from New York, tolls and all that. And then in end of 2022, I believe, we bought a townhouse in the south side of Allentown for me and my partner to stay because we were here 3-4 nights a week. And we were just sick and tired of driving back and forth for getting a hotel room and having to go to Panera Bread to take a shit or take a piss, So that's why we did that. So those are the exceptions, but for the most part, we didn't touch any of the money. Once we got to about 40, 50 units, we were kind of tapped out, and we refied 31 units. And took out a lot of money out on that, and then used those to buy more. And we bought another 40 something that year.
So typically everything right now is just buy and hold. I know you still do some flipping though.
Yeah. So I mean, so we don't even look at flipping as a business for us. It's a side thing. Like a side thing. But I guess we are high volume flippers in context of most people. By this June, July, we'll have closed, I think, 12 flips in 12 months.
Wow.
So yeah, we are flipping now.
And what's the team like for flipping? You have somebody.
It's the same crew that does my renos. So the nice thing is with the rentals and everything else, and the developments is like my main crew. They only work for us. He has anywhere between 5 and 15 people on his crews at any given time. He doesn't work for anyone else. But the problem is you always don't have a development for him. Like he's doing my 7 unit right now, but I don't always have a massive project for him. So I need to keep him busy. So those are where the flips come in hand. We also renovated about 30 units last year. So, he was busy with that. But like there were properties, like there was one property that I bought. I was going to actually just wholesale it away. I was going to make $25,000 to do nothing. And I ended up keeping it just because I didn't have any work for him. So I kept it, and I think I made like 60,000, but like I would have gotten rid of it any day of the week. But so now I flip also just to keep him busy.
All right. Now, where are you going from here? I think you were saying get into a little bit of development or redevelopment.
Yeah. So the last year and a half, probably, we've barely bought any buy and holds that aren't developments. Most of them are either flips or new construction. So we bought 1031 Hamilton Street almost 2 years ago now. It's going to be 2 years this summer. That was a development project. I went from, it was a 6,400 square foot commercial building that got converted to 6 residential and one retail. And the nice thing is on the developments, you're basically refied out when you perm out at the end, right? Like, and that's the hard part about value add. Unless you buy them for really good numbers, like if I buy something for $100,000 a door, can I really think it'll appraise for 130, 140 a door? I don't know. And for bigger units, it's also really hard to find. Like Cole knows, like it's hard to find. Anything 5+ is impossible to find. Anything 10, 15+ is abnormally hard to find in the Valley. Or they go for like dumb numbers, like a 5 cap. And I had this conversation with a buddy of mine who also does a lot of development. And it's like, I can build some of this new construction stuff for 130 a door, but they appraise for 200 a door. So I can take money out, or at least at the minimum, get all my money back and have a free building, right away, like after the construction's over. So the returns are just massive. And the returns are just way better. Like, and it's funny that they all kind of go hand in hand. Like, it's not just like you focus on one thing and you do only that. I found my developments because I buy and holds and because I buy flips. My biggest development now is going to be a 26 unit new construction project in Salisbury. And the way I found that was buying a $95,000 flip and just asking the owner at closing table, hey, you have anything else to sell? And he's like, not really. I have one other crappy rental they wanted too much for, and he wanted a dumb number on his own house.
Okay.
And like, as a single family rental or a flip, it made no sense. But then it was sitting on 2 acres. And I was like, it was actually zoned for multifamily. So I was like, oh yeah, like I'll buy that.
Yeah.
And we negotiated for a while, but we ended up buying that, and now that's going to be 26 units.
Okay. All right.
So
now, do you find the funding on new development easier to get than?
It's easier if you have experience. It's harder if you have none. But the numbers make more sense in a way. Meaning, if I bought this land for $330,000, right after approvals are in place, that same piece of land is worth $900,000. That land alone I can sell for a profit, or I can contribute it to my construction loan. So, let's say my construction budget is $4 million. I already have $900,000 down.
Okay.
They'll give me a stepped up basis on that land.
Okay.
So I don't have to, if you're doing a $4 million development, you don't need $1.2 million in cash to do the development. I'm going to do this deal for $500,000 in cash.
Okay.
So it is lucrative in that sense.
Okay.
Now, I probably wouldn't have gotten approved for that 26 if I don't go do the 7 or the 10 or the,
Yes.
So it's, you kind of, just like you start off small, it's the same thing. You start off small. After we're done with the 26, we're going to finish a 50 and 100. Like, those are my goals.
Okay. And I'm assuming your partner's still doing the design and everything for all these properties?
No, so he doesn't do, he will do some value engineering because he knows what, most architects will just tell you what fits. They're not looking at saving you square footage, saving you costs.
Okay.
They don't really care about that for the most part, unless you tell them. So, like, for example, on 1031 Hamilton Street, we used a local architect, and he gave us, I think it was 5 one-bedrooms and 1 two-bedroom. And my partner was like, this is shit, and basically was like, no, you got to fit the staircases in this way. We fit in scissor staircases rather than T's. We saved a lot of common area, took away a lot of common area. And we went from having 5 one-bedrooms and 1 two-bedroom to 4 two-bedrooms and 2 three-bedrooms.
Okay.
So the rent roll is a massive difference, right? So like that's where my partner's expertise kind of comes in. And then on the construction side, he obviously saves his money and does all that too.
Okay. All right. So over the past couple of years, you see any trends that have changed where you had to pivot your strategies?
Oh yeah, I mean, I went from buying really opportunistic value add to essentially new construction or conversions, and I went back to flipping. I stopped flipping in 2020. COVID was just a little crazy. We didn't know what was going to happen. We had just lost money on a flip in December, right before 2020, and we used to flip a lot in Long Island, but I just did a closing on Tuesday in Long Island, and it's a mess. Like, a Long Island closing takes you 5 hours. A Lehigh Valley closing takes you 30 minutes. It's just more time intensive. Right. Like, I can't do 10 flips in Long Island and do everything else I do. Okay. Like, one person needs to be dedicated just to that. Right. So you always kind of change gears.
Are you still open to investing in? I mean, I know you just got that one recent building in Long Island, but as far as
opportunistically, sure. I don't think I would do flips in Long Island ever again. I don't think I would probably do new construction developments if I could find a piece of land and had a lot of money. Like, you need a lot.
Yeah, you need a lot
to do that. Like, I'm not there yet where I'm writing like a $10 million check, but and I don't think I probably would, just because I'd rather use that $10 million to build multifamily over here. But I do see a opening in retail in Long Island and in other places. I just know retail in Long Island. I don't know retail over here. So like, I'm buying I just closed on a retail building in Long Island that I got very opportunistically. And once that building is stabilized and I cash out on that building, I probably won't bring that money here. I'll probably use that money to buy some strip malls over there. I think strip mall rents are really good, and you kind of need it. Like neighborhood retail is pretty strong.
Yeah.
I also own franchises, so I kind of know what the retail business is, and I see what you can make over there.
Yeah. Yeah, we had talked about that briefly with just the traffic and everything that's over there.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly. It's
more
a
of a
different
demand
world.
for it. You just have a lot more people in a single space, and just
Yeah, exactly.
makes sense. All right. Could you provide any financial insight of somebody looking to get into this business? If maybe, I mean, I know you had talked about, just basically, just staying active, just constantly looking for deals.
Yeah.
You called every bank, from A to Z.
Yeah.
Anything else you could provide for somebody, maybe looking to get their first deal and worried about funding or something?
Yeah. So I mean, starting out is really tough, especially today, like in this market. Like it's hard. Like I'll be honest with you. But there are ways to do it. Like if you're really young, I would just go get a job at someone doing what you want to do. Like don't become a real estate agent, go work for a developer, right? Like you're not going to make as much money probably, but like that's okay. Like you're getting paid to learn the business. You don't have to do what a lot of us did, which is learn with our mistakes that cost us money, right? You can learn and get paid by somebody else to learn. So if you're on the younger side, I think that is hands down the way to do it. No. And I won't lie to you and tell you that real estate made me rich. Real estate didn't make me rich. Real estate made me wealthy. I made myself rich off active businesses. And an active business can be anything. You can have an active business in real estate, right? And most people do. Like nobody in real estate only does buy and hold real estate passively, and that's it. Nobody. Everyone has an active side of the business. Yep. Every single person either sells off big assets and that's their business, or they're an investment firm and they have acquisition fees and other stuff. There is an active side of the business, or they wholesale or something. Yeah. You need something active. This whole like passive real estate cash flow is a joke. Yeah. And like me and my partner like joke with each other when we've had a really bad day and I'm driving back at 10 o'clock at night, and we'll joke, me and my partner after bed, he'll be like, just don't worry, just tell yourself it's all passive. It's passive real estate cash flow. Just repeat it to yourself like a mantra.
Yeah, yeah.
But the real answer is you need to make money. And there are plenty of ways to make money in this world. Usually it's not working for someone else, but you need the experience before you work for someone else. And that's what people forget. Like I'm very lucky in my life that my father was a businessman and I was bred into this. Like I don't know anything else but working for myself. And even my dad said it to me when I went out on my own after going back to work, like post my real estate business, commercial real estate job. He was like, what's going to suck for you is you'll never be able to go back. You know, like you can't go work for somebody else. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. So you need to find something. You need to figure that out. And the truth is, I lost money figuring it out. I lost $50,000 in one franchise. I lost another $50,000 in another business. I lost $100,000 in another franchise. You know, and you just hope that those losses are mitigated by all the wins, right?
Yeah, that's it.
And the wins should pay for that. Yep. And you know, there are ways to. If you're going to be too risk averse, you're not going to hit the home runs. And that's okay. Like, it's not for everyone. Like, what some of us do is a mental problem, right? Like, it genuinely is. Like, some of us are obsessed with it, and you see why the results happen. You're not going to get to 500 units or some crazy number or 20, 30, 40, $50 million of net worth without being insane about it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to want to do that. Like, I think real estate has a place for everybody. Like, you can want to own 5, 6, 10 units.
Just a couple is life-changing.
And it supplements your income because then you don't have to worry about going and making $150,000, $200,000 a year. Yep. You could make 75 and be happy, work part-time. Like, you can be happy that way. Yep. Also, I'm forced to do it because, like, I live on Long Island. I can't live off $100,000 a year, right? Like if you want to go to a good school district and all that, like you're bare bones at 250. Like that's just what life is in high cost of living areas. But like after a certain number of income and money and units or whatever you want to call it, you also have to stop doing it for the money. Like Because at one point you're just gonna be like, yeah, it's enough. Like, screw this, it's not worth the headache. Because nominally you don't spend that much more. So like, it's just all going into a bank account, it's just a number.
Yeah.
You have to want to do it for another reason.
That's right.
And like, for me, it's just like, I'm an opportunistic / value add guy in everything, not just real estate. Like in my retail businesses, if I see an opportunity, mentally I have to pursue that business, right? So like, I have an opportunity now, and I'm building out a franchise now for 10 doors, right?
Yep.
And it's just because I know I can make a crap ton of money doing it.
Yeah.
But it's also because I want to grow something, I see an opportunity, and I want to do that. The hunt is very, like, that's what I like. You know, like the hunt is there for me. Like I'm an acquisitions guy, so it just is what it is.
Now, how do you, you just briefly spoke on how you grow, but are you doing anything else as far as you read books? You have a mentor?
So I do read.
Courses?
I'm big on podcasts.
Okay.
Most of those podcasts are about random other stuff because like I don't listen to real estate podcasts at all.
Okay.
I did a couple, but they bored the shit out of me. Like it's just not for me. It's like, you know,
it's to be the same thing over and over.
Exactly, right? So like I don't want to do it. I want to know everything else. And it's also because how I learned the business in real estate on the institutional spaces, most of the institutional guys don't give a shit about the real estate business itself. It's all the other stuff in the world that matters, right? So like, what's important in retail? What are the trends? Like macroeconomic stuff, right? So, you know, why has e-commerce gotten so big? Like that's the stuff that's important for your real estate business, right? Like same thing when I pick downtown, one of the things that you do and investment firms will do is they look at like job quotients and like why the economy exists, right? So like I looked at Lehigh Valley, I was like, first of all, I didn't know where it was. And I was like, why the hell would anyone want to live there? You know, and then I looked at, okay, like there's actual jobs there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's a population, an amount of population that you won't just dissipate in a year. Like any of these slate belt towns that are 5,000 people can disappear tomorrow and nobody would care. Like they just be like, okay, it's gone, right? I remember that I actually looked up, there's an interesting thing that I saw on like TikTok or something. It was like, there's this town like west of here that has an ongoing underground coal fire for like the last 50 years. And it's the whole town is condemned. I think the last resident moved out like 5
they were
years
trying
ago.
to get him
Yeah, and that town was like a 10,000 people town and it just doesn't exist anymore.
It's done.
And that can happen anywhere in America when it's a small town. But like I looked at the population, it's a pretty big size. And these are all things I learned, you know, elsewhere.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, like there's a reason for it to exist, you know, and then e-commerce was huge. And like, you know, we've grown a lot, the Valley, because of e-commerce. Yeah. Because of UPS, FedEx, you know, Amazon. Okay. And that's a good thing. Okay. And that's what a lot of real estate shops do. They look at an area of like, where's this area going? You know, like if you look at like the Carolinas and you look at like the Research Triangle Park, there's a reason why growth has been there. Yeah. You know, and I didn't, my thesis in my master's actually was about the Research Triangle Park. And like, I'm not surprised that they are where they are today. Okay. You know, and it's a multitude of factors like education, skilled labor, factories. Like they went there for a reason. They didn't just go and be like, hey, the Carolinas are cheap, let's move down there. Like Alabama is cheap, right? Like no one's going down there, right? And there's a reason for it. So understanding those trends are important. And you get that with kind of experience and also just like knowing about stuff that's not in your one industry.
Okay. All right. And I want to finish off with what do you think, where do you see the biggest opportunities in the next few years with real estate or businesses? Anything that, you know?
In businesses, I do see a lot of opportunity in retail. Retail will give you amazing returns if you can be a good operator and a hands-on operator. Hands-on operators always make more money. That's why franchises love them. The only issue is you can't grow past that one door. So then you have to learn the managerial skills to grow past that one door. Okay. But the returns are by far better than real estate. And anyone that tells you it's not doesn't know the business. That's why private equity shops have gotten so big into retail. Like for example, like my retail business, one that I just sold, off $150,000, I made $700,000 in three years.
Okay.
You can't do that in real estate.
No.
Usually, unless you steal something or something God favors you in many ways. My next like big business that I'm doing is it's a franchise. I'm trying to get to 10 doors. It's going to cost me over the next 5 to 10 years, $5 million, but my exit on that is between 20 and 25 million.
Okay.
So I'm trying to make $20 million over the next 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's possible in real estate. So, you know, that's a different thing in its own self.
Yes.
I have friends who only do that. You know, I have a buddy of mine who owns like 70 different franchise doors, and that's a totally different world.
Okay.
If you're an operator like that, you can make money. But in
now,
real
is that
estate,
the focus for the franchises, is to kind of build these up and then sell them off, or are these something that you'd hold like real estate?
For me, it's build them up, sell them off.
Okay, all right. Because I
I'm a
know
build
some
them
of
off
this
and
stuff is
sell them
kind
off
of
guys.
trendy.
Yeah.
That's out.
Yeah,
These franchises. So
like, exactly, and that's why like
so
it's not like McDonald's, right? Like you can't buy into McDonald's for good returns.
Yeah.
Right. You're buying a 5 cap in real estate terms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's shit.
Yeah.
But that's why existing guys in McDonald's grow and they can do it. Private equity shops can do it. Me and you can.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to find franchises that you think have some scale, that you think can grow, and you have opportunity, or you can go to other states. I can't leave this vicinity, unfortunately, but like you know, even my buddy who owns 60 doors, all in the Yum brands, like he owns 6 Dunkin' Donuts now in Texas because there's growth in Texas.
Yeah.
But he couldn't own them in New York.
Yeah.
And he's from New York. So he went to a totally different state.
Okay.
So there is growth there, but you have to be willing to move. I wasn't, you know, or be, you know, good enough to operate out of state without being there. Usually you aren't able to do that without being experienced in that industry. Like I knew a lot about real estate before I picked Pennsylvania. Yeah. I wouldn't have bought in Allentown if I was just starting out. And I'm like, hey, let me go buy a cheap single family in Allentown, Pennsylvania without knowing anything about real estate. Yeah. You know, so, but in real estate itself, I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think, listen, long-term real estate prices will go up. I obviously believe
inevitable.
I obviously believe
obviously
in
not
the
as
valley.
quick as it's been.
Yeah,
but
exactly. You'll have ups and downs.
That's it.
I do think in the valley has a reason for it to exist. I think a lot really highly about the valley, or else I would have sold and left by now. So my money is on the valley. A lot of my net worth is here. But I do think there's a lot of opportunity in strip malls and neighborhood retail. There will always be money in development, always in this country. You will always make money long-term if you can do it. There is a lot of opportunity in affordable housing. I think affordable housing will be very important in the just political climate we're in for the next 50 years. And there is a lot of incentives for affordable housing. The problem with affordable housing is it's very, very, very complex. It's not that easy. So that's why I say, if I could redo everything, and I had to, because I don't believe in regrets, so I wouldn't redo it, but if I had to, 21, I'm getting a job at an affordable housing developer. I'm learning the business from inside out, work 5 to 10 years there, get not only the experience, but the connections, raise money, and then go out and do it for myself.
Okay. Good. Anybody have any questions? No? All right, let's give a round of applause for Syed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.